Hey everyone, Scary here, and today I wanted to go over some quick tips and tricks that will help you in Magic 2015 Duels of the Planeswalkers. Let's get started. The first thing you'll want to do is head over to your Help and Options screen and select Settings. From within the settings, you'll see a basic settings screen that includes your difficulty level that ranges from Mage to Archmage to Planeswalker. That only affects your single player games. Then you've got your Quick Duel Select, which decides where you'll go once you hit your Quick Duel button, as well as being able to turn on and off hints, tips, and server-driven content. Moving on to graphics, we've got a selection for full screen, aspect ratio, resolution, anti-aliasing, shadows, and finally refresh rate. Moving on to audio, we've got sliders for music volume, sound volume, voiceover for the tutorial missions, as well as voice communication controls and subtitles. Moving on to preferences, you can disable your vibration settings here for your controller if you use one. You can choose to zoom played cards, so when your opponents play cards you can get a closer look at them. Combat animations allow you to remove combat animations, those really annoying things that make combat take forever. Enable or disable premium card foils here, as well as change the way that your hand is displayed. Turning off simplified targeting allows you to target your own creatures with spells or abilities where you might not usually be able to do that normally. Hold priority requires you to push a continue button to move past your main phases. Browsing the entire library. This is a bit confusing. So there are certain spells and abilities in the game that allow you to search your library for either creatures or spells or other restrictions. Checking this option will allow you to see all of the cards in your library when using these abilities, and not necessarily just the creatures or spells restricted by the card. Turning order blockers automatically off allows you to choose the order in which to block your opponent's creatures. Always use optional abilities and auto-resolution are features that you should really keep on. They reduce the amount of micromanagement. Auto lands should be turned off to better facilitate the amount of lands you can use in a deck. Well, that's it for the options. Let's go into some gameplay to show you a couple of other tips and tricks. So as you can see, we're playing a mono white tokens deck. It's a pretty simple deck with some pretty simple cards that do pretty powerful things, especially when you make them work together. We're going to start by playing a Plains and passing the turn. As you can see here, we've got Raise the Alarm, Paragon of the New Dawns, as well as a Seance. Our opponent plays a tapped land and passes the turn. We draw a Plains and play a Plains, and we can play or Raise the Alarm, but we're going to wait and see what our opponent does before we do so. Waiting to play your instance at the most opportune times possible does a few things for you. For one, it reduces the amount of information that your opponent has about your strategy and about your hand. As we can see, the opponent plays an Elvish Visionary, and unbeknownst to them, we have something that can stop it. We played our land for turn and passed the turn. Thinking that we've got nothing usable in our hand and no creatures on the board, he's going to attack with his Elvish Visionary. We're going to respond before damage though and play our Raise the Alarm, which gives us two 1/1 tokens at instant speed. We're then going to use one of those tokens to block and use the other one to attack next turn. Our opponent plays a Cultivate before the end of his turn, getting a couple of lands. We draw a Baneslayer Angel, play a land, and then we play our Paragon of the New Dawns before combat. There's a reason why I did this, and you'll see shortly. The Paragon gives our other white creatures +1/+1, which is great because now we can hit him for 2 instead of just 1. This is very important to note because most of the time you want to spend your abilities and play your creatures and spells after you had gone to combat. The only exception is if they're beneficial to you during combat, and that's when you play them beforehand. Our opponent plays a 3/1 here, which is something I wouldn't want to necessarily trade with our 2/2, but we might have a couple of tricks up our sleeves as well. Satya Wayfinder comes in, and it's going to allow him to get some lands as well as put some cards into his graveyard. Because it was the second creature that he played, he also got Vengevine from his graveyard. So we're going to play our Baneslayer Angel, but we're going to wait until after combat to do so. Even though we don't attack, we always want to get in the habit of playing anything that doesn't benefit us during combat after our combat step on our second main phase. As you can see, this is now a 6/6 because of our Paragon and it has flying, first strike, lifelink, and protection from demons and dragons. This is really, really important because he's playing a black deck with some demons in it. He chooses not to attack because of our lifelink, and decides to play a spell to get something from his graveyard. In the meantime, he does damage to our Paragon and kills it. Thankfully, we've got another one in hand as the Bloodghast comes down on the second main phase. So before combat, we're going to play our Paragon once again. This is going to allow our Baneslayer Angel to hit for 6 instead of 5. That means that we also get to gain 1 extra life this turn, which is pretty good. Baneslayer Angel does 6 damage, leaving him on a 2-turn clock unless he can deal with either Baneslayer Angel or Paragon of the New Dawns. He decides to play Runescar Demon, which is going to allow him to fetch for any card he wants from his library. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy like Griselbrand. Thankfully, our Baneslayer Angel has protection from demons, so I'm not too worried about his demon. He's going to swing with Vengevine and his Bloodghast, and we're going to block just 1, considering that the Vengevine can come back pretty quickly, and well, so can the Bloodghast. But if we can prevent a little bit of damage, it's all good. None of the other cards in our hand really make sense except for maybe Seance, but with the amount of damage we're going to be doing, this game isn't going to be lasting very long. Baneslayer does 6 more damage, leaving our opponent at 6 life. We then play our Seance and pass the turn. At the beginning of our opponent's upkeep, Seance triggers and we get Paragon of the New Dawns back onto our board. This is just a token that's going to be exiled at the end of the turn, but at least it gives our opponent another creature to deal with. Our opponent plays a Shadowborn Demon, a 5/6 flyer that when it comes into the battlefield destroys a creature. Unfortunately, he picked the wrong target to destroy. Seance would have exiled that token at the beginning of the next end step. However, we still have a regular Paragon of the New Dawns on our board, which should have been the target for Shadowborn Demon. He plays a land and gets a Bloodghast back, and tries to kill our Paragon with this spell, which doesn't quite hit the mark. Thankfully, our opponent didn't kill our 6/6 first striker as well as our Paragon of the New Dawns, so now we can use them to win the game next turn. Untap, upkeep, and draw. And we're going to go straight to the combat phase and swing with our Baneslayer Angel. At this point I wanted to give the Baneslayer Angel Vigilance just for fun, but I forgot to do it before combat. Well, that's going to do it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something from it. If there's something that I missed or didn't cover, please list it in the comments below and I'll try to include it in a future video. Please subscribe and thumbs up for all the latest here and on the blog at sspgaming.blogspot.com. And once again, thanks so much for all of your support. Have a great day and we'll see you next time.